Chickadee check, chickadee check.
Good evening and welcome to our March 11 budget work session.
Well, hello again. Welcome. This is our third budget workshop. It is our last budget workshop. This will be the last time we meet at 6 o'clock. The rest of our business will take place during regular session. Tonight you're going to hear from, starting out is myself talking about central administrative budget. We're then going to transition to support services, and we're going to conclude with our undistributed funds. Before I start, I just want to remind everyone that at the very beginning of this process, we started with our district planning team, and this year was unusual as we looked at our budget guidelines, knowing that as we entered the year, we were going to be looking at a year where there was a deficit should we want to remain within the tax cap. And simply put, we had more money going out than coming in. As a response to that, we pulled together our advocacy team, and then we put together a video. Mike and I created a video together with the help of Nancy. That video went to all 9 buildings. It was housed on our website, kind of explaining why we have a deficit this year. It was also our call to action for advocacy. And through that, we had a writing campaign, a phone call campaign to local and state targeted legislators, especially those that are involved in the education budget. We had special thanks to Emily and Sarah for taking a day trip up and back to Albany, and the Monroe County School Boards for taking an up and back trip to Albany to also support our advocacy. In our advocacy, you never quite know if it's because of our advocacy or because of something else, but we received this year what we were advocating for, which was approximately just over $600,000 in foundation aid. The year before, we received $10,000. So we are back to the point where we felt was the bare minimum that would be okay for us. And all that work, I can't thank our stakeholders enough for participating in, from our parents to our teachers to our paraprofessionals to all of our staff within our buildings, to our Board of Education, to our parents in our community. So that helped a lot. So that $600,000 we weren't anticipating, but still we were short well over $1.5 million. And from there we went through a process with the district planning team, which continues to look at how we're going to find those reductions in the budget. In our district planning team, as we developed our budget guidelines, we talked about the importance of keeping any budget reductions as furthest away from the students. So you'll see some of those within my budget. Know that we're at about the $600,000 mark right now, so we're still working through that last piece of budget reductions before May. So welcome and thank you. And here is the central administrative budget. The main components are the Board of Education, my office, Human Resources Office, which you'll also see on here referenced as Personnel Services, and our Communications Office, which will also be referenced as Public Information. Our budget represents 0.93% of our operating expense. The county average is 1.24%, and we are the 5th lowest in Monroe County as it relates to central administration, which is a good place to be, the bottom third probably. Here it is in graph form as far as where we've been over the last 5 years. We've restructured quite a bit. We've had quite a bit of focus around our goals and strategic initiatives, as it should be. Also, annually, we see new and different New York State and federal mandates. And as we look across the district, we have many new faces. And so a lot of our time and efforts have been spent on recruiting and planning and looking at our future. Within this budget, you'll see a decrease of 2.59%, or $40,278, with a 5-year annual average increase of 4.62%. Another way to look at how this breaks down by area. Within the central administrative staffing, we have 3.5 people last year in my office. Now we have 3, so it's myself. It's Deb, who also serves as the board clerk, and it's Cindy Coleman. We have reduced that 3.5 to 3 as part of the succession planning, dropping our former ASI off of my budget line to help support our elementary administrators last year. Human resource is flat, and also as part of our restructuring and budget reductions, you'll see our public information FTEs down 1.0, which Nancy and Lori have taken on quite an additional load with that. So regarding the Board of Education, you can see on the right a sampling of what they do, what's in our budget. We have done a lot of work over the course of the last few years around our mission, vision, values, our strategic initiative, and advocacy. But the amount of time that they also spend weekly, several times a month, multiple times a month, at Monroe County School Board Association meetings and in conferences, in any professional development associated with being a Board of Education member. This represents a pretty flat year-to-year budget. We are the third lowest per student cost in the county with our Board of Education, which is $7 compared to $13.38. So thank you all for that. Work within the office, again, we have quite a bit of turnover. So we've done a lot of work relative to culture, a lot of work regrounding in our mission, vision, values, making sure all we do is embedded within a supportive environment for all students, staff, parents, a welcoming environment. We've done a ton with safety and security. We try our best to engage community members and families with our quarterly power hours. We will continue our endeavor of reviewing multiple policies on an annual basis. And tonight I will, in my superintendent's summary at the end, I'll be discussing a new policy that we'll be talking about. But again, I really appreciate the work of everyone. Our negotiations are very different from other districts. We have a board member attend some of our negotiations. We do not have attorneys attend our negotiations. We do it collaboratively. We have a lot to do this year and into the future relative to capital project management, and we'll be even talking about potential for another capital project, which might sound crazy, but it makes a lot of sense if you give us time to explain that. And then, of course, with all of the new administrators we have additional supports that we're giving them, because the heart of, from my perspective, the heart of our district is at the building level, which is really our building principals and our assistant principals, and no disregard to the people at our central office team that are staring at me right now. Planning for next year, a lot of this I've shared, but we will continue with more succession planning. All of our professional collaboration will be on student learning. A lot of exciting things that you heard from Heather's office relative to math and ELA and best practices and benchmarking, and we have high hopes for a highest level of student engagement and rigor moving forward in those areas. We also have not only our strategic initiative that we're working on in our capital project, but we have partnered with parents along with the district planning team around sustainable practices, reviewing where we stand with electric buses, what can we do with composting, what can we do to help support a better environment for all. Within my office, you also have already heard, we have 3 FTEs, myself, and 2 admin support / clerical. This area has decreased 11.86%. We are the 7th lowest per student in the county at $78 compared to the average of $73. A lot of this is redundant. You heard this from Sean at our last workshop. Human resources, the increase is really due to just the normal carryover from salary and benefits. It's still at 5 FTEs. It was 5 FTEs before. And similarly with the Public Information Office, we have 2 of the same people, but we decreased 1 person through our budget process. Can't thank Nancy's office enough for the work that comes out of there. The amount of accolades we get statewide and nationally for recognition of our newsletters, our brochures, our district calendar. We just went together along with our CIO to look at a different mass communication system, another panic button system, to continue to be on the best and most reliable system for alerting people in the event of an emergency. Board of Education and Central Administration, my final summary slide breaks down as follows. 31% is the superintendent's office, 39.9% breaks down to HR, And then we have the Board of Education sitting at 6.3%, and public information at 22.4%. So at this time, I would like to open it up to any questions you may have. Okay. It's not a bad thing. All right, thank you, everyone. Next, I'd like to welcome up Heather Clayton, our Assistant Superintendent for Instruction.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me again. Just thanks again to our finance office for the support in preparing this to share with you this evening. I have the pleasure of sharing our building-based budgets with all of you. You're not going to see a significant change at all with our building budgets. This is the heart of our work. This is where all the magic happens. So all of the things that you see on the left side of the slide are funded through our building budgets. And overall, we have a $64.5 million budget for next year, which is a 0.4% increase over last year. Here you can see our building budgets in totality. And then on the next slide, you see a breakdown, high school, middle school, and elementary school. And to have a different view, this is our per pupil. Middle school and high school, you will see are more because they include our athletics and our co-curricular activities, which are a lot more robust when you get into grades 6 through 12. I just want to highlight, too, with athletics, I was reviewing the fall, winter, and spring reports from the 2023-2024 season, and we had 50 teams that were competitive over the three seasons, and it was really exciting to see all the accolades for our student athletes. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. When you look at how our building budgets break out, 94% of it falls into our staffing of our certificated and non-certificated staff, with the remaining 6% towards some of our athletics costs, our BOCES, technology education program, our instructional materials, and our discretionary spending in the buildings. So our building level staffing, most of it is encompassed in our building-based budgets. There are a few positions that are funded through our student services department or special ed department, some grant-funded positions, but the majority of them are funded through our building budgets. Our career and technical education, this is our EMCC program. We have many students with an interest in our EMCC program, and if they complete it successfully, they could end with a professional certification and a paying job, or entrance into a 2 or a 4-year school, and we see our students doing a combination of all of those. For our building instructional materials, these are our things that are based on our per pupil allocation that we do get aid for. So textbooks, library books, hardware, and software. You'll see that's remained pretty constant from last year. And then the discretionary budget is the per pupil allocation that our principals receive to cover all of the other stuff. So when they get their budgets to build, they get a lump sum, and they distribute that into the codes where it is needed in their buildings, depending on wish lists from their faculty, initiatives they have going on, anticipated costs, and things moving into the following school year. Again, our revenue sources are our property tax levy, our BOCES aid, and our New York State instructional materials aid that we receive for our textbooks, library books, computer hardware, software, and we do share that with our non-public and parochial schools. Also, our title grants serve as some funding for our buildings. Just to wrap up with some celebrations, so we've continued our focus on authentic and rigorous learning opportunities for our students, our work with our strategic initiative, and all of our work around relationships in a welcoming and affirming environment has very much continued. we're doing a lot of work around the vertical alignment of our essential standards, and that's something that's happening K-12, and looking at how we're best utilizing our human resources and our existing instructional resources, along with exploring those new opportunities to further enhance learning for our students. Also, that increased use of instructional technology with our one-to-one initiative and other things we see our teachers creatively doing in the classrooms. Looking ahead, just that continued focus on meeting the needs of our students with that wide range of academic, social, emotional, and behavioral skills within each classroom. Really trying to identify where there may be skill deficits and having targeted interventions to support the student's success. That integration of the New York State SEL benchmarks within our academic work, and continuing to ensure we have equitable access for rigorous learning opportunities for our students. From a budgetary perspective, some of the challenges we continue to face are our staffing shortages we've seen across a multitude of areas. You can name the area, we've probably seen it. That results in some hardship on our buildings, and a shout out to our principals who have been very creative about their use of human resources within the building on a day-to-day operational sense. They very much have to shift people around to cover where there may be shortages or openings, and they've gotten, unfortunately, very good at it. But it is a challenge every day when we have positions that go unfilled. The complexity of our student needs continue to be something that is a challenge, and we are relentless in our pursuit to find the best resources and interventions to support all of our kids. And then just the increasing costs that we see overall for professional development and instructional resources. And just in summary, in this final slide, you'll see our adopted budget from 24-25 and then the changes proposed for 25-26 with an overall increase of 0.4%. So with that, any questions? Thank you.
Okay, great kickoff to tonight. It's always a pleasure to present the support services budget. We take great pride in transporting our students to school and making sure our school is a safe, clean environment. And the food service budget, while separate and not part of the general fund budget, obviously we take great pride in feeding our students every day. So it's always a pleasure to go through the support services budget. I want to give another shout out to Terry, our budget director. He's done an outstanding job preparing the data behind the scenes. He's looked to make some efficiencies, and obviously Rachel, our treasurer, is right there in supporting the data. And then our business office assistant, Nancy, does a tremendous job of putting all this together and keeping track of all of the changes. So it's a team effort. But essentially, the support services overview tonight, obviously I'm responsible for those operations. We've got 219 FTEs that we'll review. Encompasses some of the operations I've mentioned, but also the finance and business office and auditing operation, and some overlap with some of the technology infrastructure discussions that we have too, especially the BOCES budget that I'll mention tonight. So the support staff's budget is probably $20 million or 12% of the total budget and 12.9% of the staffing. It's interesting because we talk about in the support staff operations, we try to look back at the accountability aspects, you know, whether it's water testing, safety inspections, audits. You know, there's a lot that's going on. Our office is audited at least 2 separate times a year with could be 3 different agencies, but right now it's been 2. But there's a lot going on, including all of the state education department requirements for state aid and our budgets in general. So there's a lot going on in terms of accountability standpoint. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that take place. And I mentioned these financial reports as well. We're still doing a federal report through the state on financial transparency. The biggest challenge that we've had, and you'll see throughout the discussion, is we're continually short-staffed in transportation and custodial maintenance. And Sean and Orlando do a tremendous job. It's just the market. But we are seeing some turnaround. Had over 40 applicants for the assistant food service director position. So we're starting to see that turnaround, and I'm hoping that that labor market for some of these positions is going to start to turn so that we can get our folks back. In terms of the data, so in my former life, I worked for Forecast 5, where this data comes from. It's now owned by Frontline, and I'm able to pull the comparative data. Just keep in mind that the data is lagged by 12 months. So in some of the data, and that's just because that's when it becomes readily available from state ed. So for example, when we look at the communications comparative data, I anticipate there's going to be a decrease, right? Because that change isn't reflected on that current database until next year. So it is lagged a year, but we still like to use it as a benchmark, to see how our spending compares. And you can see that we're the lowest spending in Monroe County as a percent of operating expense and support staff services. So we're a very efficient operation. Again, and I think, you look at that efficiency and then look at quality. So I don't think, I think there's there's an efficient factor that's not impacting that quality. What does impact us a little bit right now is that staffing shortage. So if you just look at overall the trend, it's flat. And when this budget comes together, I'm sure you couldn't help to notice, Heather's presentation in terms of how flat the building budgets are. We see that in support staff services too. When we get to the undistributed budget tonight, that'll tell the story as to why we've had to manage our expenses. We're very happy with our advocacy efforts in state aid, but we've had to manage our expenses. So it's been a difficult budget year. We've had to make tough decisions and prioritize, and mostly try to keep all of these other operations flat to take care of the undistributed budget, which we'll get to later. So you're going to see this is just by component and then by object, and as mentioned earlier, the majority of our budget are salaries. In this case, we also look at the contract and utilities for the for energy. Is really our biggest amount that we look at. FTEs are flat, and again, they're not completely filled. So our actual expenditures are going to differ from what our budget is, right, in terms of generating some fund balance, because we don't have all these positions that are filled. But in an ideal world, for what we need from an operational standpoint, we would have that 219 FTEs. So just to touch briefly on some of these categories, I'm going to go through every slide. I know every year when you look at the number of slides in the support staff presentation, you think, wow, how are we going to get through that? I'm not going to go through everyone. I'll just go through some highlights on the slides. Certainly available for follow-up questions later. But again, when you look at the accounting and financial reporting of almost $200 million in total, the purchase orders, disbursements, and in particular, if you look at the number of paychecks that we issue along with the volume of our accounts payable operation, it's a pretty significant operation. I mean, picture a $161 million company in operation, with the number of employees that we have. There's a lot going on in the business office every day. I would say that the biggest aspect of what we do from an accounting and oversight standpoint, and not because we live in a fear-based environment, but because we strive to do the best thing, the right thing, is we know that every 5 years there's going to be a New York State Comptroller audit. So we have to communicate sometimes tough messages about what's purchased, right? And your claims auditor, the claims auditor that works directly for the Board of Education, reviews every single expense that goes out. I represent the district on our health insurance boards. In fact, I just came from both of those meetings and have updated information for a presentation later on. And we spend quite a bit of time talking about reserve and fund balance management as our, as part of our operation. So overall, we're looking at a decrease in the finance and audit budget of $11,000. We're the 7th lowest cost per student in the county, at $197 compared to $220, just for comparison's sake. So we've held the line in terms of our staffing and efficiencies in this operation. We continue to get favorable audits with very few findings. I think we do a really good job at managing fund balance. Terry's already got a good fund balance projection at this point of the year, so when we come back to the board with a proposed budget, the superintendent's proposed budget, we know what the end of the year looks like right now in terms of our financial condition. We've done a tremendous job of enhancing our WinCap web services. That starts, I got to go back 2 years where we put that online as a major accomplishment. And now Terry and Rachel have taken it to the next step where we're trying to get our attendance off of paper and fully automated. And we've done a really good job so far this year. We're looking at automating the accounts payable operation through electronic documents to cut down on paper. We're looking at ways to reduce the number of timesheets that are filled out manually, especially with regard to our chaperones. In the athletic events, I know we tried a little bit with professional development, had a little hiccup, and we're working through it. So we're really working hard to automate the business office. And while we're doing that, we keep the highest bond rating with recommendations of the Board of Education and Audit Committee in terms of our fund balance and reserves, which is what they look at from a financial strength position. Our challenges is we struggle with staffing, and I'd say with cross-training, and that's really been a goal. And we're working hard at it, but we've got a long way to go. But continual progress. And then we deal with wage inflation and obviously the challenges that Mr. Pirro have already mentioned in terms of state aid projections. So operations and maintenance and security at a glance. I love looking at this 204 acres of land. It's a big operation out there, especially when you're short-staffed. When you look at the square feet that we have, the buildings, the structures, the 2 large stadiums, this is a huge operation comparatively from district, from a school district operations perspective. And Jeff and his team do a tremendous job. Dan Fersman do a tremendous job, especially under, again, these challenging conditions of being short-staffed. So you can see the number of positions. Right now we're trying to provide support for all of what's going to impact the capital project operations at Mendon and here in terms of cleaning things out and getting closets ready and the pool area turned into a storage area. So we're in the process of determining how many desks we need for testing, and they do a lot of advanced coordination that typically doesn't exist when there's not a project. And then they keep up with everything else while they're at it. 2,600 work orders through an automated work order system. So they try to keep up as best they can. And then Jeff does a great job in terms of collaboration with our town and village officials. And if he needs any help, they're right there to support it. So tremendous support from the town and village. His budget has decreased, and what we had to do, and again, when we look at all these budgets, you're going to see this theme. We've had to squeeze the budget for any excess that I found in the budget. We had to squeeze the budget to get it balanced this year. So in anticipation of some utility savings based on their energy performance contract that was approved, and just some good trends that we've seen previously with our cooperative bidding, we were able to make some reductions with that budget. Always a concern for me to come and stand in front of the Board of Education from a fiscal standpoint to make reductions in this area because, as you all know, that can turn very quickly depending on different conditions. So we were able to squeeze. It's the 3rd lowest cost in the county at $14.20 per student compared to $14.67. Admin technology support, it's something Mr. Impero and I have talked about in terms of making even our budget presentations a little more efficient. So Matt did a great job at the last workshop talking about this. I'm going to just, I'm going to present it from an overall perspective from a finance standpoint. We've got a one-to-one device program now. We've got right, so we're roughly 5,500 devices. We have to have a long-term plan to replace those in order to keep that up. We have to have professional development that's in place. We have to make sure the hardware works. When you turn it on, it works, especially in the classroom environment where, if it takes you 20 minutes to just get everyone logged on, you're in trouble, right? So we need to keep modernizing our equipment. So when we look at the replacement plan, that's a big, big commitment that we've now entered into and need to continue down the road. Behind that equipment are wireless access points, our switches, right? We're trying to get away from servers and do more work in the cloud, but we have to have the speed to do that. So it's really important that we keep up with that plan. And again, Matt did a great job, covered with that detail, but the main component or drivers to help assist us is BOCES. We rely on our local BOCES to coordinate some of these services. We do all of our purchasing through BOCES, which then drives BOCES aid back on the district. So it's advantageous for us to do that. Last year, we shifted from the model where we relied on fund balance at the year end, right? So Matt would come to me this time of year and say, how much money do I have to spend? We shifted that model and we increased it right in the budget. So that way our BOCES aid reimbursement is more predictable, right? We're still going to spend money at the year end based on what we need, and Matt always has a prioritized list. But all of those funds will go through BOCES, which drives the aid in the following year. Well, over the next 2 years, but that's how we budget it. So I tried to summarize. I took Matt's slide and I changed it around a little bit, right? So the beginning balance this is our current reserve money. This is what we have in savings. You can see what our plan is to spend that down. And then along the way, we've got to replenish it, right? So right now, we just have a spend down plan. We've got 2 reserves, one that was created in 14. We've got to spend that first. So you can see the goal is to have that spent down by 27, 28. And then the new one that the voters authorized last year, you can see the balance that we have in it. That should remain pretty stable while we spend one down, and then we'll start to spend that down. And again, what I'll tell you is that I loved Matt's presentation, but when you look at our one-to-one replacement plan, I have concerns to the tune of about another $500,000 per year in terms of that replacement plan. Obviously, this year we're being very conservative, but it's something that we've got to continue to look at from a long-term financial perspective. So I think this kind of shows you what our plan is. Again, cautiously in terms of the spend down and the plan out in the future. And that's why we have the star to say, as we approach 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, we've got to have a mechanism to replenish that. So one of the major aspects of what's being voted on is the spending of $500,000 out of that technology reserve for the replacement of one-to-one devices. So that's, and there's no impact on the tax levy because we're just going to use the money right from that savings account. So that'll be one of the things that our voters, our stakeholders coming in to vote on, on that third Tuesday in May. Transportation really continues to be a challenge overall because of the bus driver shortage. And we've briefed district planning team on a long-term plan. We've already had what we call the Transportation Summit mid-year to talk about some strategies that we have. But if you look at the size of our operation and responsibility, and then consider that we're short-staffed about 7 to 10 drivers on a daily basis, it's amazing that we're able to do what we do. And Carla and her staff really work hard under difficult circumstances, to make everything work every day. So this is a big operation when you look at the number of bus routes and students and miles traveled on an annual basis. And then when you look at the budget and we look comparatively, we'll get to that slide, we spend the fewest one of the lowest spending districts in the area in transportation. And again, we're flat. My concern with this budget is, as you look at the contractual line, you can see where we've had to rely on contract transportation, and we would prefer to use the buses that we have here in-house with our drivers to provide that. So when I got here, 3 or 4 contract bus routes, and now we're up to 7, 8, 9, depending on what comes on. If we have to add anything new, it's got to be contract transportation. So we're going to continue to see a challenge in this area. Again, Sean and his team have done a tremendous job from a recruiting standpoint. Nancy Wayman has assisted Carla. We've got a bus out with signs. She's got new signs from a communication standpoint, but that's an area that we need to continue to work on. It's not the financial aspect, because remember, for every dollar we spend in transportation, we get about 68 cents back. Right? So it's not that, it's just in general, we still see a labor shortage. One of the things that's difficult, if you're a parent, you have your bus route canceled, you say, well, why Pittsford? And then you say, well, it's only Pittsford. Not true. This continues to be a region-wide, statewide problem where it's challenging to recruit folks to come and drive a bus, especially now that it's turned into a full-time position. So I can assure you, with Mr. Pirro's leadership, our conversations with our Transportation Summit, we continue as an administrative team to throw as many resources as we can so that we don't have those cancellations on a daily basis. And you can see from an efficiency standpoint, we're the second lowest per student cost, which is good on one hand, but I'd feel much better about that if we didn't have any cancellations, week by week. So that's something we're going to continue to look at. So again, great, Aaron Bunce and his team and Carla and her staff do a great job. They've got a great New York State Department of Transportation rating, which is the safety of our buses. Our buses are audited worse than a New York State Comptroller audit, to be honest with you. Every aspect of a bus is reviewed, and you see that in the bus replacement plan. But we have, knock on wood, very few accidents and really good efficiency ratings. And the things that we are challenged by, we'd like to do more for our athletics. We'd like to do more in terms of the time for field trips, right? Those field trips are confined to like 9:15 to 1:30 because we've got to get every available driver back. We'd love to do more there. We need staff to provide that service. And again, knock on wood, fuel costs have been fluctuating but mostly stable. So that is a lead-in to the bus replacement plan, which I'll summarize very briefly, but I'll pause there. There's a lot of information. Any questions about support staff at this point? Questions? All right. So again, another thing that we vote on is the bus replacement plan, right? And I'm not going to go through every PowerPoint slide here, but we have a comprehensive bus replacement plan. And we've worked to lower it from 10 years to 9 years to really 8 years. The biggest aspect of our bus replacement plan, quite honestly, was we've got a electric bus study that's 90% complete. They've done a great job under changing conditions from NYSERDA in terms of the requirements that go into the report. I actually had a conference call last week with one of the last major components. And we have a plan through 2035 for electric buses. I think the main question, that everyone may have is, why aren't we going to vote on an electric bus this year? And the truth was, we considered voting on an electric bus this year, but when you consider what we're hearing in Albany during our legislative breakfast, during my visit to Albany, it's both sides of the aisle. Sarah provided us with a letter from our national leaders from the state, and the feeling very much is that the timeline needs to be extended. Now, nothing official yet that I'm aware of, but after additional discussion, we felt it was prudent to hold off a year on the electric buses. We have a plan. If everything aligns, we'll be asking the community to vote on electric buses next year. But this year, we felt it was really important to just go through and replace the 14 buses, 8 66-passenger and 6 36-passenger buses, to the tune of about $2.4 million. That's higher than where we have been 2 years ago, and even a couple $100,000 higher than last year. Again, we're very blessed that we have $9 million in reserves for our bus replacement plan. We don't ask our taxpayers to pay more on the levy to support our bus replacement plan. We use our savings account to do it. We've had a continued focus to increase that savings account to pay for the cost of electric buses in that replacement plan. So again, depending on the timeline, what we hear from state and local officials, and pending additional guidance, we put the brakes on it, but we're prepared to move forward. We have money in our savings account to move forward. We're in a very positive situation, as we go forward. So, but this year, 14 buses, gas and diesel buses, and then we'll go from there. The presentation, that you have available to you talks about all of the reasons why we do what we do in our plan. And essentially, I'll just, make one additional comment. Think about your vehicle, and especially after this winter, in terms of rust and corrosion based on salt. Well, in this case, it may have not been as bad because we had the rock salt shortage at one point, but think about how much has been put out this year compared to the last 2 years. That corrosion leads to the biggest problem that we have with our school buses on the road, which is why we have that aggressive replacement plan. Each one of those members underneath that bus, if the DOT inspector goes like this and it breaks off or anything is flimsy, then that bus has got to be replaced, so or taken off line and repaired. So we really, take pride in that 99.24% passing rate. And the reason why I think that it's so high is before we have catastrophic repairs that we have to make, we have a very aggressive bus replacement plan. Questions on that? Here's the actual proposition that we'll see. $2.4 million, no impact on the tax levy. An anticipated state aid back of $1.2 million. And on an annual basis, I like to show this, the annual net cost for the ask is about $158,000 when you consider that aid. So, all right. Now we save the best for last, and we talk about the undistributed budget, which is our biggest challenge of the fiscal year this year, and the story of the budget. So the undistributed budget is really, three main categories: debt service, interfund transfers, insurance judgment fees, employee benefits. You can see employee benefits, roughly 83% of that at $53 million. So I'll break out each of those areas and go through it so that you have an understanding of exactly where the increase is this year, since it's not been in any of the other presentations that we've shown thus far. So about $337,000 there is not from debt service. It's actually money that we had to add back into our summer school program. So that's an area that we've got to review. We offset expenses in our summer school program with COVID dollars, and the rate and speed at which the state reimburses us is always a constant struggle. So we've had to increase that interfund transfer. And again, what we've been doing is doing a transfer at the end of the year. We wanted to put it in the budget to make it more transparent so that we could take a look at that program in general. And then slight increase in debt service accounts for the increase there. So you can see our debt service trend has been relatively flat. We'll start to see that increase significantly in the upcoming years because of the new capital project financing that continues to go on. We're still on temporary bond anticipation note financing, but eventually that's going to increase. Insurance judgment and fees. These are legal fees, records management, judgments and assessments in terms of some of what we have to pay back for any assessment value challenges. And then we don't control the BOCES administrative costs, BOCES does, and I have to say they've done a very, very good job in terms of controlling those costs. So very good in those areas. Records management, I'll speak to, we continue to look at ways to digitize our records management from an efficiency standpoint. So that is also part of what we're looking at. Employee benefits, that's really the story of this budget development. And fortunately, our retirement system rates, teachers' retirement, TRS, teachers' retirement system, that's actually going down. ERS, we've anticipated, we've known a long time that this rate's going to continue to go up and top out at 16. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go a little further. Social Security and workers' comp and life insurance and all those other benefits, again, mostly flat, really nothing to say. Workers' comp had a swing of 100,000 because of our claim history, but last year it was $100,000 the other way. So it tends to swing, but you know, we kind of keep a stable budget. And then some separation payments are included in here. But usually you could see, like, you know, it's happened in 22, 23, but we like to see a 3 to 4% trend. This year it's jumped up to 11.4% because of the health insurance increase. And that's really the story. 70% of the story here is health insurance. And in 10 years, that's increased from 24 to 32%. And again, the real story is that last bullet. Health insurance increases have averaged 6.5 to 7.5, and we're looking at a 14.4 mid-year this year. So we budgeted about 10, came in at 14.4. So even in the current year budget that we're in, we're looking at mitigating a potential deficit in that budget because that unanticipated increase. It wouldn't be fair for me to say make those statements without characterizing the Rochester Area School Health Plan. Amazing development back in January 1st of 2004. Very efficient. They've consolidated plans. They've kind of grandfathered one plan and started a new plan for cost savings. And again, I just came from the meeting this afternoon. So the plan itself has both union representation from the county and business officials and superintendents. So the plan itself is very well run. The challenge that we're having is really inpatient and outpatient services, and then rising drug costs and new and innovative drug costs more so than anything. There was a lot of conversations about obviously certain drugs I won't get into, but you just know when you watch TV on the weekend and you see the commercials in terms of what's marketing. I looked at the top 10 costs for drugs, and they're all there. You could probably sing the commercial in your head when you see the name. It's right there. So unfortunately, when we look at the trend experience for RASH 1, there's two plans, right? There's one that's grandfathered, the RASH 1, and then RASH 2. One plan deals with mostly now people that are 65 and older, so an Aetna supplement plan, which we made changes to, but unfortunately the Inflation Reduction Act shifted cost to the plans and took it away from individuals. So if you're an individual, you're going to have less out of pocket, but then the plans absorb that. When you consider our cost-sharing model, the hit that we're looking at just for those plans, we're looking at a little over $1 million increase in those plans over the split calendar year. So there's a huge increase there because of that shift. And it's really nothing that anyone could do. That Inflation Reduction Act, that was legislation. And I think it was one of the best kept secrets about how costs are going to increase. Again, it sounds good because it's the individual less out of pocket, but then you got to pay for it through premiums. RASH 2, which is our main insurance plan for active employees, year-to-date claims are just significantly worse than expected. So it's interesting, I was going to try to cut and paste the chart for tonight, but the revenue that you anticipate is lower than what was expected, and then the expenses we're definitely higher, and I'll show that to you. So, you know, again, our claim history, and it's a huge operation. Our claim history was just much higher than expected or forecasted or trended. So you can see the trends that are here. So what the board of directors had to do mid-year is adopt a 14.4% increase. And there was really no way around it in terms of the information that was put in front of us. And this earlier, if you look in your packet, you don't have this information. I literally just updated it standing here prior to the presentation. Q4 in '24, you can see revenue, we took in 350, right? But expenses were 361 with an $11 million plan for, loss for plan performance. That doesn't include the $6 million that was kicked in from reserves. So if we didn't kick in the $6 million in reserves, it's actually $17 million. And if you look at the previous years, you don't see anywhere near that performance. So this really, in a nutshell, explains the challenge. And from a budgetary or fiscal standpoint, this chart, simply explains what our budget has looked like. And then what the rates have been 6.6, 6.5, 6.2, 6.4, 6.7, 7.3, and then boom, 14.4. Right, so it's been a challenge this year with our health insurance budget. It's the biggest increase that we've had in a very long time, 16.56%. And that's our largest, you're going to see that's our largest increase in the budget, in this proposed budget this year. With, again, elements that are really out of our control in terms of use and history and that rate setting. So what's bearing on the budget to just wrap this up? I had to reprioritize and say health insurance. Now, fortunately, I don't think next year is going to be as challenging based on the information that I just received about 2 hours ago. So that's positive news for next year, but it does have a big impact on this budget. Again, I've mentioned this, we've got the capital project financing. Mr. Pirro already alluded to the fact that we still need to look at, we've got roof and infrastructure, HVAC, that needs to get done. So we really need to consider from a facility standpoint what that next project looks like. And I know that sounds crazy with the one that we're in, but we need to do that. We talked about electric buses and vehicles, contract transportation, wage inflation. And then last but not least, I did a presentation for Monroe County School Boards a few weeks ago in February. And then recently the comptroller just issued a report, and it's essentially my presentation, and that report says the same thing. School districts have been used to the foundation aid money that's come in, the development of the formula, the spending of COVID federal dollars. School districts have gotten used to spending at a certain level. You throw some revenue restrictions, lack of federal revenue, and then something like this health insurance increase on it, school districts have to take a hard, close look at, can we continue to offer and afford all of the programs and services that we have based on our revenue? So that's something that, when we make budget decisions, we're not just making budget decisions for today. We want to obviously maintain all of our programs and services, our primary focus, but we're also looking to see if the decisions that we make today, can we sustain that into the future? Very pleased overall to say we were able to absorb that 14.4% increase and maintain all of our programs and services. The factors bearing on the budget future is, can we continue to do that? Yes, as long as we don't have any major increases in these other areas. So I think that's probably the biggest aspect that we've got to just consider going forward. And I think we're doing a good job with that through modeling and discussions and evaluations of programs and prioritization, long-range textbook replacement plans, and our educational objectives and the analysis there. So as long as we're still thinking ahead of time and planning, we can be educated and keep that on the side and just make sure that, our focus is on how to maintain and keep what we have into the future. So we've got a few things left to do as part of the budget process. The one thing that we do have left, Terry, Rachel, and I just met with our auditor yesterday, and we've got to have, I got to bring a plan to the Board of Education for spending on our debt service fund, because we've got about $2.5 million. Some of that money can hopefully be used in a positive manner, bringing it into the budget and going forward with a, with a good spending plan. It's money that's left over from previous capital projects that we can use to pay down debt. So that's positive. And so I may, add that at our next meeting. But other than that, we've got DPT, a couple of meetings, and then April 8th we'll bring the superintendent's recommended proposed budget. And then, of course, our public hearing and vote are really our big steps remaining in the process. So with that, questions, comments? Mike, anything to add?
No, just thank you. That's very comprehensive. Rachel, Terry, thank you for all your work with supporting the budget. It's as good as we can get.
Good, okay.
We have a 3-minute break. Welcome to McCluskey's to the McCluskey room.
Thank you.
Is it weird being in a room that's named after you?
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. I'll try to behave though.
Could be biting your tongue.
Yeah, I'll keep it. I always do the brief with Nancy. All right. Thank you.
What's the thing? Can I embarrass him? I'll get yelled at.
Thank you. Good evening, and welcome to our Pittsford Central School District School Board meeting. I would like to welcome you all and ask you to join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda? Thank you. All in favor? Unopposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Next, we are delighted to hear from Mr. Josh Walker from Calkins Road Middle School, our principal there.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Thank you. It's nice to see most of you again after last week's tour. Welcome to Mike Falzoy here with me as well as we get ready to just share a little state of the state or state of the school with you. We are going to focus on a couple of things here tonight. I'm going to go through some just quick updates around security, our instructional support team, and our counseling suite. All of the theme throughout the 4 items that we're talking to you tonight is about student responsiveness and hearing the student voice, something we've really been focusing on. And you'll see pieces of that in all of these things. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Thanks, Josh, and thank you, school board, for welcoming us here. I want to share that I've experienced a milestone in my life, and that is I've noticed my glasses are no longer working. So I've been here long enough to now have a prescription change. So I want to thank you for the faith you've shown in us with the kids, and it's been an absolute delight to work here, and I'm very honored and humbled to be here. I'm going to talk to you about safety and security. One of the things we've been able to do, thanks to the project, was creating a single point of entry within our school. This is important because it really helps us control the flow of traffic coming in and out of the office. We know who's coming in, we know who's coming out, we can vet them more easily. And it also allows, I think, for a more productive office environment instead of having kids coming in and out looking for their lunches, looking for, whatever item that's been dropped off. Now a separate area, they can do that. And I think it's been very convenient for parents too to be able to just drop that off, sign in, and take off. So it's been really great that way. We've also done a lot with our parking lot traffic flow. And what this involves is now you have one single route that goes around the loop. We started this really in earnest last year, and I think we've almost got it down where everybody knows what we're trying to do. And the good news about that is if people follow the route, the kids are always dropped off where they're not going to have to encounter any kind of traffic that's coming through. And unfortunately, sometimes people are in a hurry, whatever, ice, you name it. This avoids a lot of those dangers. So we thank the community for cooperating with us. Sometimes a pain to have to wait through that, but we seem to have the line moving pretty quick. So that's another great thing that we've seen. Also, in conjunction with the district's sort of planning around if we ever have to do reunifications, we've kind of redid some of our fire drill protocols to include, hey, what would you do if there was a fire drill before, after school, or even during passing time, and making sure we have a way to take attendance and really be accountable during those sort of non-traditional times that we'll be rolling out in the spring. So a lot with safety and security we've worked on, and I think it's going to pay off. Anything? Our instructional support team also had a bit of a facelift, if you will, with the idea of removing red tape, removing barriers for teachers to get help to kids as fast as possible. So what that means is in the past, if let's say you wanted a kid in math AIS or reading support, there would be you'd have to wait for a meeting to take place that could take a month, right? Rather than doing that, what we said, look, let's put the experts in charge of this. Let the math teachers talk with the math teachers and the service providers. They know what the kids need best, and streamline the process and let them manage the resources that we have. So we've been able to do that in science, math, and reading support, and it seems to be working out very well. It also focuses our IST team to, hey, let's brainstorm teaching ideas and how to better instruct and not have to worry about, hey, we got to go through this process to get the kids the help they need. So I think that's been another pretty good shift. Our structured study hall intake process, again, I hope you hear a theme of sort of customization and making it easier for communication to happen between the instructors faster. So in this case, with our structured study hall, there's now an intake form that goes from the counselors and the team teachers to our structured study hall individual who can then know exactly what to work on with the kids. It's a little bit more customized, and it also allows that individual, when they send out a weekly email with an update on the kids, to kind of customize that to what the teachers are looking for. Our counseling suite, and again, another area where we've seen some physical changes to better just serve the needs of the kids and the teachers as they're coming in. We reconfigured the space so that if you'd ever visited our school during lunch, sometimes it looked a little bit chaotic. You had kids all over, kind of just, they wanted a place to eat lunch. Now there's a little bit more dedicated areas for that to happen. The counseling office has also done a great job of, like, I don't know how to put it other than to say like an open house theme. So an example of that where we invite the kids and teachers to come down to the counseling office, not because they need support, but just because it's a nice place to visit. For example, our service dog had a birthday party, and several of the teachers brought their classrooms down just for a little celebration. We sang happy birthday to the dog, and it was great. Yeah. Yep. Just along those idea of social emotional learning for the kids, we've begun highlighting for our staff at faculty meetings just various teachers and just what they're doing on a daily basis to promote social emotional learning. For example, I think last month or 2 months ago, we highlighted a teacher who, I mean, every time I've observed this teacher for 10 years, I've seen this consistently, and that is, let's start class with a this or that. So for example, today it was jumping jacks or push-ups. And the kids just kind of have a brief little fun debate about that. We record it on the side of the wall and the kids see over time kind of what the other classes think. And it's a nice way to connect things together. We recognize that teacher with a, it's kind of a funny thing, a 3D printed spotlight. I don't know what the point of it is other than it's a nice little memento and they get to take that with them. I was asked to bring one for you tonight, but you know, these have to be earned. They cannot be given away. Thank you.
They are available on eBay if you'd like. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our student life, just in general and going into a focus. You see here, this has really been our focus from all of our different teacher leaders, our department leaders, our team leaders, our counseling group, our admin group, is really being responsive to that student voice. The key words, responsive, empowering the student leadership, making those connections. Middle school's fun. It's a tough time, but it's fun and it should be. Learning should be fun. The social piece, it should be fun. Teaching there is fun. Being an administrator there is fun. We don't want people to forget that while we work hard and we push ourselves to grow and learn, we also should have fun because it is a tough time and an important time in their lives. So just to share some things, we talked a little bit about some of these before, and some members of our central office team and board have been able to visit like the Equa Center. We continue to do that trip for the last 3 years. I know Mrs. Clayton was there this year and made a friend. And that is something that we did with the 8th grade in the fall, and we hope to continue to do that. They've been a wonderful partner, and what's been great is the students give feedback to their team leaders and to Erin McCrae, who really, our health teacher, who really is the spearhead for this. Every year they give feedback, and every year it's been different. We've had different activities, different things for the students to do, and they've really, really enjoyed it. And the mini pony there, I can't remember his name, but he was really naughty. He kept rolling around in the dirt, and the kids, of course, loved it. They thought it was great. Our 7th grade has gone to the Seneca Park Zoo. One of the teams is going to do a ropes course this year. Our 6th grade has the Brain Show game show. It's like a double dare with the 6th grade curriculum. They go crazy for it. And every year, for the past number of years, our 8th grade has gone to the JCC to see the Holocaust survivor play. Parallel to their curriculum, very impactful. So these grade level experiences, and the kids say, yes, we really value that, or hey, how about some feedback? And so far, those have been pretty successful. Spirit Days are always a hit. Here's some from the last month. We've got Valentine's Day, the ever popular Anything But a Backpack, which the kids love because they don't bring backpacks, so they just think that's fantastic. My favorite was the small little shopping carts. And of course, Neon Day, just some. There are no pictures of Dress Like a Student Day, which was the teachers last week. Just a lot of hoodies and Crocs, so that went well. One thing that's started this year, our library is doing monthly themes, and these have been incredibly successful. Just opening it up after school for the kids. There was, in February, there was the middle picture there. They did candy heart figures. The one on the left there is the crocheting. They thought, oh, we'll get a handful of kids. They had 60 kids show up to crochet. My favorite vision was this one 6th grader getting very frustrated as she was helping 4 8th graders and not getting the hook and loop or whatever it is, like just being very patient and trying to help them. We now have a crochet club that's been approved because it was so popular. So if you have yarn, please bring it by. The other picture is this month they're doing a little robot, activities. I can't remember the name of the robot, but if you zoom in on that picture, the one student's face, it actually moved. They got it to move, and she was so excited, and her face lit up. Those have been very successful, and kids are actually giving suggestions for other things to do. But I want to spotlight Spirit Week, because we just finished our Spirit Week right before February break, and it really was representative of what the students were telling us. So the student council, very active, felt like it was getting a little stale, and they wanted to change some things up. Some of these changes have been occurring over the last couple years, but it really came to a head this year. You see their goals there. They really wanted to get more people involved, because the old PEP assemblies used to have a couple of activities with a couple kids participating in each one, but they wanted to really be a week-long thing, and they wanted the staff to be involved, which is always interesting. So this was their plan. They utilized their teams. I'm a member of their teams. It was great. The students would come up with ideas. They would share them. This is where the good of social media, they would see things on different platforms of schools doing different activities and put them up there. What do you think about this? They would debate the safety of some of them. We'll get to that. What theme days they wanted. They would talk about the charitable organizations that they wanted to donate to. And they really took the lead during the week, doing the announcements, leading the PEP assembly, and managing the games, being the judges of if things worked or not. So we'll just take you through some pictures. Jar Wars was the fundraising throughout the week. We competed by grade level. They chose the organization that supports the research on type 1 diabetes. This was very important, as several of the kids themselves have type 1 and other family members. It was a local organization and something personal. The year before, they did Galasanos for a very personal reason. It's that connection with the community that the students wanted to make. And over $1,100 in 3 days of coins. A lot of counting coins. Hopefully the penny's gone and we can not worry about that anymore. So PEP assembly pictures. Our choir sang. Never happened before last year, and now they get to be showcased there. This picture in particular of the school-wide rock, paper, scissors contest. You might notice our 6th grade champion is related to one of our members of the board against our 7th grade champion, who's related to a member of the Mendon administration team. No nepotism. They won fair and square. It was pretty great. Every team developed a winner, and then they faced off in the assembly. Again, every kid and staff member in the building got to participate. I lost mine at 7:36. Our day starts at 7:35. It's longer than I made it the year before. So at one point in our assembly, we had 4 different activities going on. You had a ring toss, which I don't have the pictures of. How long can they keep the beach ball in the air? And they would gradually move them farther and farther and farther apart. We had a drawing activity. They picked a theme, and the kids had 5 minutes to draw. And they're still hanging up in our commons. The most entertaining thing that happened this year was the mattress race, where they had the inflatable mattresses, and the students had to run, jump on it, and get it to slide. This was tested multiple times. Fuzzy side down. It was a blast. In fact, we were laughing so hard we forgot to actually have the last heat because it was so funny. The kids enjoyed it. They had so much fun going down and back, running, jumping on it, and getting it to slide. The place was, you could see all the staff in the back just laughing hysterically. It was wonderful. And there's our champion. The moment a champion is crowned there, our rock, paper, scissors champion. And we also had hula hoops going on. So you had hula hoops, drawing, beach ball, ring toss right after the mattress. No kids did repeat activities. So many kids involved. About 100 kids a team. Each team had about 50 kids involved in the different activities, either right at the PEP assembly or right before. And there they are spread out by team color. I just think that's a great picture. One of the things the students wanted to do was get the staff involved. So last year, there was a surprise at the end of the PEP assembly of a teacher versus teacher dodgeball game. It went about as well as you think. It was fun, but this year we did not do it because we wanted to surprise them, and we had an inflatable race. They knew nothing about it. We just all ran into the gym, got lined up, and had a relay race. The best part about this, watch the kids at the end. Garfield clearly does not care. So Miss Anzana from Green Team wins. She cheated. Green Team is going crazy. That's why we do it. They had a blast. This was their feedback. Student council planned the whole thing and ran the whole thing start to finish. And the kids left there, the staff left there, talking about how much fun it was. It was, as I started, it's supposed to be fun, and this was great. The kids, there was a speech at the beginning from our student council about why they chose the type 1 diabetes support charity, why it was important, why the assembly itself was important to all be together, and really rang home that message. And it got Mike and I thinking about, again, our whole purpose. We've done so much work here on our mission, vision, and core values that we pulled out, I'm really trying not to show that again. There we go. Our mission statement. I'll let Mike take us on.
Yeah, it's a lot's changed in 10 years. If you think about this, hasn't been updated since 2015. So besides me losing my vision, we also have to, I think, be responsive to what the new needs of a new generation of kids are. And I sense, hopefully you're seeing a theme of, look, we want kids to be in school. We want them to have a good time. In order for us to impact kids, they've got to be there. They have to want to be there, and we have to be inclusive of everybody. And so that's kind of a direction we want to go this summer, is begin re-updating our mission statement so it's better aligned with our district's vision, mission statements. Anything to add?
And we're actually going to be starting this work at Superintendent's Conference Day in a couple of weeks to lead into the summer work. So with that, thank you. I always sneak Dwight into every presentation to you. But are there any questions or anything that we can bring forward for you?
I would just say thank you to both of you. As you do absolutely focus on the students. Your staff are amazing. And
Yes, they are.
school is about developing the whole child, and you do nail that, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see you.
And next, may I have approval of our February 25 minutes? All in favor? That is approved. Thank you. So for Board of Education reports,
So actually, the District Operations Committee, so we had in February, as Mr. Vespi said before, a school budgeting in the post-foundation aid and federal COVID funds era, presented by our very own Mr. Vespi. And it was really interesting. I mean, we are lucky here because we have Mike's expertise, and some of the information was at least familiar. But it was interesting to know the history. So 2007, foundation aid, 2011, that's when we had the New York property tax cap. And the landscape has changed so much in the world of education since those things came about. And nothing in the foundation aid has changed. So we have more state mandates, we have security and safety that we've never had before, technology that wasn't around at that time, and nothing has been changed to reflect those things. So we talked a lot about planning. District strategic plan should drive the budget. Long-range financial plan should shape short and long-term goals. And then some factors we need to consider. End of the federal COVID funds. Foundation aid is now fully phased in. Tax revenue will not keep pace with salary and benefit increases. And just how the New York State budget overall projections indicate a deficit. So the kind of bring it all together was, amidst all of these changes and external factors, it's just really important that we keep working on this collaboratively to address the challenges and communicate often. So it was really great. I can send the link out to everybody for the presentation. It was really good, and thanks, Mike, for sharing with the whole county.
And great attendance at that meeting as well. So that just says a lot there. Legislative report, just really quick. We went to Albany last week, as has already been mentioned. There were 29 of us from across Monroe County, and that includes our superintendents who were there for the NISCUS spring retreat. Is that correct? Sure. Okay. So we had 10 or 11 meetings that day, and our focus, as I mentioned before, was on the zero-emission bus transition. And just a couple of action items I wanted to share. There are a few things that some of our legislators were looking for us to follow up on related to specifics on mental health, budgetary needs, and zero emissions buses. We know from our area, Gates Chile is certainly the leader in that. And so a couple of the senators were looking for some specifics to the challenges that they're facing right now with that. So we will follow up on that. Another thing, Emily and I met with Senator Helming, and she had some questions specific to foundation aid. So with Mike and Mike's help, I was able to send her some information specific to Pittsford on foundation aid. So hopefully that will help her in her conversations moving forward. I know that the One House budgets were just put out late last night, early this morning, so we'll be working through all of that, and hopefully some positive news comes from that, and then into the final budget. And then just quickly, next month, April 2nd, will be our last committee meeting of the year, I believe, unless something comes up in May, and we will have both of our regions, Regent Norwood and Regent Hale, there to present to us then. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. On March 28th, our schools are closed for Superintendent's Conference Day. April 3rd, there's a board visit tour at Sutherland High School. By a show of hands, who will be there? Thank you. And on April 8th, there's our next regularly scheduled meeting. Okay. Next, we will have our may I have a motion to approve the PCSD nominee for BOCES Board? So moved. Okay, all in favor? None opposed?
I would just
The
like to
ayes
say
have
that
that.
person is here. Yes. The person whose the room is named after. Kim McCluskey.
That's Ms. Kim McCluskey. Thank you. Next, we'll have a financial report from Mr. Vespi.
All right, first for your consideration is the acceptance of the treasurer's report. We did receive a star check in the amount of 3.6 million, lottery aid of 156. School lunch program had net operations of minus 21,000. Again, to offset that with take a look at what food was ordered in inventory. And then really nothing further report in this treasurer's report. Again, interest earnings, we continue to do very well with our laddered investments. I will caution, though, we do have an increase in the upcoming budget, but I did attend an economic presentation last Wednesday where we shouldn't expect long-term trends to stay at current levels. So that is something we'll have to keep a close eye on as we bring revenue in and continue to operate very well. We'll have to keep an eye on that. That concludes my report.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report from January 31? It's been moved and seconded. Are there questions? Hearing none, all in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
Okay, next for your consideration is the bus purchase proposition. You can see on the memo that I outlined current balance of 9.2 million. This proposition will have no impact on taxes or the tax levy or the operational budget from that standpoint. It's simply a purchase out of a savings account that we've designated for this purchase or for this purpose, and we ask for the spending plan to be approved by our voters on an annual basis.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the capital reserve bus purchase proposition? Thank you. Are there questions? Hearing none, all in favor? That motion carries. Thank you.
Very good. Next for your consideration is the expenditure of $500,000 for the one-to-one purchase of one-to-one devices in our technology replacement plan, as I outlined previously in the presentation.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the capital reserve instructional technology proposition? Thank you. Are there questions? Hearing none. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you.
All right, and next for your consideration is a budget transfer request. This is why we actually added money to the general fund budget to avoid this. We still have a need, though, to make transfers. This in particular will support E-rate funding, which has been on hold for the past 3 to 4 years. This is purchased again through BOCES for technology infrastructure, switches, and a wiring project. And the transfer is necessary. The amount of the money that's not offset by E-rate, we have to front the money, and we get about 40% back. And the amount that doesn't get funded back from E-rate will qualify for BOCES aid. So again, this is a good way to spend money, support our infrastructure, take advantage of E-rate funds, and then have that BOCES aid come back. So it's really a well put together proposal and plan from Matt Kokowski, and obviously Dr. Kimmer had a hand in it as well.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the budget transfer request for technology? Okay, are there any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? That motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, next for your consideration is a settlement of a tax certiorari proceeding. I think what you're going to find is similar to the past. This is another situation where that equalization rate has continued to drop disproportionately as it pertains to commercial property compared to residential property. So this is another recommended settlement on behalf of all of the agencies involved for a total refund of $44,000. Again, we have money set aside in a tax certiorari reserve to offset, so no operational impact. Again, I'll just caution on public record that we've got to continue to work collaboratively, and we're all concerned about the continuing decrease of that equalization rate and how hard that is to explain. When we set the tax rate in August.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the tax certiorari for 90 Linden Oaks? Second. Are there questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. That carries.
Next for your consideration is the addition of 3 travel cards. What I'm finding now is that the price of conferences, hotels, any travel that's associated with it is increasing. In the past, we've asked our employees to front the costs and then reimburse them. To be fair, some people are comfortable with fronting the money, some are not. So it is standard operating procedure to have travel cards available, especially for a size operation like this. I think the approach in the past was to be very fiscally conservative. We'll still take that approach, but I just think with the changes that we see, that this is a necessary precaution going forward. We do have in the administrative regulation that there is one available, but what we find is that it's limited in scope. So again, we're asking for the addition of these 3 travel cards. They will be tightly regulated, locked up, sign-out sheet. From an audit standpoint, I think we're solid, but I do think it will alleviate the potential for any considerations as it pertains to personal finances as we ask our employees to embark on these professional development journeys.
Thank you. May I have a motion to permit credit cards for employee travel resolution, 3 additional? Thank you. Are there questions? Hearing none. All in favor? None opposed. That carries.
Next is your consideration of a bid award on the consent agenda.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the bid award? Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor? It's on the consent agenda. Thank you so much. Okay, next we will have a report from Mr. Clark, Human Resources.
Thank you and good evening. First for your consideration is the professional staff report. We have 1 certificated staff appointment, 2 school-related professional appointments, 1 supervisory and technical appointment, and we also have per diem substitutes and coaching salaries for you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the professional staff report?
Second.
Thank you. Are there questions? Hearing none. All in favor? That carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next for your consideration is the support staff report. We have 2 clerical appointments, 2 clerical resignations, and 1 custodial appointment.
May I have a motion to accept the support staff report? Thank you. Are there questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Thank you. That carries.
Thank you. And last, typical for this time of the year, we have first readings for tenure for your review.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Like you were speaking, for our special education report, Mike will address that.
It is on the consent agenda.
Thank you so much. And next, we will have our superintendent's report from Mr. Perro.
It is on the consent, oh, I'm sorry. Let me change that. We will need an executive session this evening to discuss the employment of a particular person.
May I have a motion to accept the call for executive session? Second. All in favor? Thank you. That carries.
Thank you. At our next board meeting, I will be bringing an amendment for the board for consideration for approval to policy 1210, and that's due to a change in educational law. Policy 1210 currently is listed as Board of Education, qualifications, numbers, and terms of office. The change in educational law now state that starting next year, we must have student voice on our Board of Education. And the changes are relatively simple. So a student board member will be considered an ex officio board member. And it would make sense, since we have 2 high schools, to have a Mendon board member and a Sutherland board member. They will not be allowed to vote. They will not be allowed to call snow days. They will not be allowed to attend executive sessions. And they will not be paid. Those are the 3 big ones. I will certainly give them pizza as much as they want. And then we have, how will they be selected? And essentially, there are 6 different ways they can be selected that we can agree on here. The student is currently an elected student president of a high school, a student duly elected by the student body, so there could be elections at the high schools, a student selected by the high school student government, a student selected by the high school principal, a student selected by the superintendent, or a student selected by a majority vote of the board. Then from there, we can work out the logistics of what that specific role of the student would look like. There's districts that currently do have student board members on their board, and they may have those students be responsible for reporting out what's happening, highlights from their school, or anything that they feel the board or community should know about what's happening at Sutherland, what's happening at Mendon. And then for a lot of the districts, they've moved that student to the front of the agenda, and then have allowed that student, the student reps, to leave after the report, understanding that it's a commitment when students are busy. And so we will be looking at probably seniors from both Mendon and Sutherland, and then you'll see the policy. It would be not a new policy, it'll be a revised policy to 1210 that just encapsulates the student part. Any questions there? Okay, and then the other future work that we are going to have is just around the cell phone use, primarily at the high school. Currently at the middle schools, there are no cell phones allowed out. That has been well received. It's been followed to the T by the students. The students have been great with it. So we will see what the governor's budget proposes as far as the language that she may use as far as what a distraction-free environment looks like. But we will have options. We also have a power hour coming up where we may elicit feedback from community members that come, or we may share a recommendation and ask them for concerns that they might have with the recommendation. In speaking with area school districts, most schools seem to be going with least restrictive to start, which means it would be like our middle schools where students, phones are out of sight, right? They can have them in their pockets, they can have them in their cars, but they can't be out. And so we'll have to work through those types of scenarios, and I would imagine us doing that probably in the May-June timeframe to have that finished, and then be able to communicate that to families in our summer mailings and work over the summer. So 2 big changes, both involving students, one really good, one not so good. I'm not sure how you feel about that. But the gist is a distraction-free environment, so it'll be interesting to see what the language says. Okay, with that, that's my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Pirro.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Thank you. All in favor? The ayes have it. Thank you. So is there any old business? Any new business? So tonight, there is no public comment. So may I have a motion for adjournment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I did want to mention one more thing. Dan White is the district superintendent for BOCES, and he announced his retirement for the end of this school year. So I do want to really thank Dan for not only his leadership, but his friendship, his responsiveness. You heard Mike share tonight how amazing BOCES has been with managing their costs, their structure, their organization. So in this public forum, I'd just like to publicly thank Dan for all he's done so well.
Thank you. They will be missed.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, oh, yes, that's a part of our consent agenda, and we did have a motion to approve that, and we have a thank you letter prepared for them also. We have that, but it's part of consent agenda, so we can't discuss it, right? It's part of a consent agenda item. That's it.
Yeah, I would just go back to PTSA, or I could find out tomorrow when they email me exactly what it went to.
It said performed with art supply purchases for Mendon Center.
Thank you. So may I have a motion for the adjournment? So moved. Thank you. All in favor?